Good morning, beautiful souls. Welcome, gorgeous radiant femmes, beacons, yoga tribe, everyone else sitting here today, and a lot of gratitude for some of the things that have happened this week. I've been working with some of my clients in our beacon tribe, and I'm back in our yoga community after some holiday time and teaching again and tapping into that real creative juice that is within us as human beings. Good morning, beautiful Amy. And this is what I wanted to share with you today, is around creativity. Right? So those of you that don't know me, I'm founder of the Radiant Femmes movement and Be a Beacon programs for women, and my genius zone, if you like, is around helping women to bridge this gap between the practical and the spiritual. It's around embodying ancient sacred practices in a way that are supremely powerful for this modern day. And one of the things that I find so many women come to me with is this, and let me know if you resonate with this, is this feeling of being lackluster, of losing a sense of who they really are. It is very, very easy these days to get caught up in the shoulds and the coulds and this sort of general sense of what needs to be done in the world to fix things, or rather than really tapping into what is our juice, what is our desire, what is our creative impulse in the world. And there are many reasons that this creative impulse gets shut down and we get caught up in the shoulds, or get caught up in not really knowing who we are anymore. And we'll get to that in a moment. But how does this show up in you? It shows up as a feeling of, this lackluster, flat, diminished feeling, so low energy, feeling caught up in fulfilling other people's needs and desires rather than your own. And we have to fulfill our own desires first in order that we can help others to fulfill those in a higher way. Otherwise, we burn out trying to fulfill others' needs, and it's not always in the most empowering way that we do it. It can become enabling for others. So how else does it feel? Let me know. What does it feel like when you're not tapped into your own juice and your own creativity? I know that you have all felt this at some time. I still feel it at different times when I get caught up in the shoulds. And I know for me, it got caught up in perfectionism. It got caught up in not feeling my own worth. I just don't feel good about myself. I don't feel passionate. I don't feel energized or inspired about what I'm doing. It all feels too hard. And then we can have this push-pull of having to try too hard to create in the world and to do and to impact change. And then we can pull back because it's all too hard. And we go, oh, what's the point? Because I'm not getting validated. I'm not getting seen. I don't feel like I'm making a difference. Let me know if you relate to any of that. Yes? Because I know so many of you do, because I work with hundreds of women and so many of them tell me this, and it's something that we work on fundamentally. So what are some of these insidious things that happen over your lifetime that shut down this sense of who we are? Because I'm not sure who said it, but there is a beautiful phrase that we are all born an artist. And I truly believe this. We are all incredibly creative beings. We are here to create. And yet staying an artist is what is the difficult part. We are all born as creative beings. We are all born as artists. And yet staying that way is difficult. Why? Why is that? So I think there are many reasons, and I've made a little bit of a list, because some of these things I've noticed in myself, some of these things I've noticed that other people have shared with me, and some of these are core things that I've worked on with many clients. And one of them is having to take on a more adult role as a child. So notice if this relates to you. This is how we slowly can lose a sense of ourselves. So if as a child you have had to take on a more adult role, such as having to be very cautious and careful around a sick sibling or around a sick parent. Perhaps you've had parents that worked a lot and you had to take on a more responsible role in working early on, and you lost this capacity or felt guilty for being your beautiful, creative, vibrant self as a child. That can very quickly diminish this unique expression of who we are. So that's one of the things. Another one that I probably felt a little bit especially was that, we can be quite big as children in our expressive dynamic things. It can easily be shut down as that's embarrassing. Don't be so dramatic. That's not appropriate right here. Or don't be so emotional when you're expressing yourself. So notice if any of those things have come up. Don't be so embarrassing. Don't be so dramatic. Don't be so emotional. Quiet it down. That's not appropriate right here. And the key thing to understand about that is it's not about your behavior. It's not about the beautiful expression of you. It's about the uncomfortableness that someone else is feeling. And I'm sure many of you know, and if you don't, let this land, that when someone else is criticizing you, it is very often about their, discomfort. They can't own that behavior in themselves. So when they feel inhibited in an expressive way, when they feel like they're shut down and can't be as expressive as you're being, they would judge and criticize you. Now, as a child, when you're shut down by a parent, you feel like that is the right way to be. The parents or the person, the guardian, the one who is telling you to, calm down, don't be so dramatic, don't be so embarrassing. You feel like that is how you should be. And so very quickly we learn to shut down these parts of ourselves. And what I find with women when I work with them now as adults, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, is that they've never really fully reclaimed that inner child and that joy and that freedom of expression. There's still a part of them, that immature, childlike part of them that still is fearful of being shut down or of being rejected or of being seen as a fraud. Yeah? On the value of their worth of expression. That it's silly, that it's not worthy, that it's not important part of who they are. But when we negate this important part of who we are, it does not feel good, does it? I had some other things down here. So the other thing that we can that can help make us shut down when we're younger is that we don't get any validation when we do show up. So you may express yourself fully, you may sing, dance, whatever it is, but if you don't feel the validation back that that's a good thing, then it can just kind of fall flat and you're like, oh, okay, but I'm not getting a good feedback loop from that. So maybe this isn't something I want to do, and as children, we very much rely on this sense of safety and sense of I'm okayness being provided on the feedback loop, right? From the people around us, from our peers and from our parents in particular, right? And our school group especially. I know that for me, I've had to work on a lot of my validation around school. I was a natural achiever, natural expresser, natural creativity, and there was a tendency to sort of shut me down at school or not validate that because it seemed all too easy for me, right? So I think there's some of the main things. So don't be so emotional. That's nice, but we need to get on and do this. Like belittling the creativity and expression. I think that's another one. Yeah, that you do something that feels like really brave and really fun and expressive for you, but it's belittled in some way. Oh yeah, that's lovely, darling, but we're off now. Pack your bags, get ready for whatever. So we don't learn that our expression, our unique creative expression, however that is a very important part of who we are. But we are taught to conform. We're taught in schools to conform in a particular way. I remember getting in trouble a lot in my art class at school, getting in trouble for coming up with the end product and not showing my workings out. Did anyone else get in trouble for that? Right? But I didn't have the workings out of like, this is how I'm going to do my artwork. I just had the inspiration and I just did it. And I used to have to go back afterwards and show my workings out, right? Which kind of squashes the creativity. So in having to conform to these steps, it squashes this innate creativity. And another way that I felt this really squashed in myself is when I tried to take up guitar lessons. I was suppressed and I ended up running away out of my guitar lessons because I had a really great visual memory and a really great ear. So I would remember music and I would feel music, but I wasn't very good at reading music. If I had to read it, I couldn't keep up. My body and mind was too far ahead of my capacity to read and compute the music. And so I was constantly told off for memorizing music. So I was never nurtured to trust my own innate creativity and had to try and conform, but I couldn't conform, right? So who else feels that feels like through their life there has been certain circumstances, and they're sort of quite insidious in nature. It can take a bit to kind of look back and go, oh my gosh, where did that happen? How did that happen? And all these little ways, these little micro traumas, that your inherent creativity and your inherent uniqueness and the trusting of yourself, of how important that is, of how valid and valuable that is, has got slowly suppressed and squashed down. So I think it is so important to open this conversation, because as we unlock the creativity in the women that I work with, as we unlock some of this past conditioning and fears around showing up and worth, we come back to these core things of not being allowed to fully express, or not feeling safe and encouraged to fully express ourselves as a child. And this inhibits not only our artistic creative expression as adults, but also our willingness to show up and be seen and heard without these fears that I'm going to be shut down, that I'm going to be rejected, that I'm not going to be validated as a grown-up. So it shuts down not only our artistry, but our full purpose here on this planet, which arises from a creative impulse. Yeah. And it resonates for you, Suzanne. Yes, darling, I thought it would. And you are a master of reading expression now. Yeah, which is amazing. If anyone doesn't know Suzanne Macefield's work, she's on with us now. Dear friend of mine, hello, beautiful, who reads body language. It gives a lot of insight for people around that. So yeah, love that work. So I'm going to leave you with that today. It's just this curiosity for you to invite you into an inquiry of what was it like growing up for you, and in what ways can you look back and see how your creative impulse was suppressed in different ways, you know, in perhaps well-meaning ways. Remember, people don't tend to squash you because they want to. They're doing it out of their own fears, their own need to conform, staying in these guidelines. And how can you, just with that awareness, start to soften perhaps some of the bars that you're holding around yourself that are suppressing and diminishing your flame? Can you give yourself permission? Can you reparent yourself to say, you know what? Now's the time. Now is the time to reclaim your inner artist, your inner creative expression. And if you need some help with that, and most people do, because it's hard to see those blind spots and it's hard to hold yourself in that and do the work of the emotional and energetic processing that needs to be done to release that, then reach out to me, because this is my area of genius. And like I said, I was so excited this week. It's been the flavor of my week to really help some of the women in my tribe come to this place of being able to be fully expressed and to release some of the old bindings and the old wounds from their childhood that have been stopping them from showing up in so many ways. So do reach out. Our Be a Beacon program for women is amazing and cuts through all of this on every level, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, environmentally, and deals with, a lot of profound healing in a very deep way that supports the feminine, because as women we have our own particular deep wounds that many of us carry. All right, my beauties, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, and do share some ways in which you resonate or not, and any other suggestions and ways that you feel that you've been shut down creatively, and how you have freed that up for yourself. I would love to hear, and have a great day, have a great evening. Much love, everyone.